Hi everyone, so today I am making a video about how to put in just a regular overlap zipper and centered overlap zipper, and hopefully you can see okay. I'm just using my iPad, so we'll see how this all works out. So we just start out with the back of your shirt or whatever you're using. I'm using 2 pieces of just square fabric for this demonstration. Line up the straight edges, right sides together, and then baste. Make sure you baste it because you're going to rip this out later. Baste 5/8 of an inch from the edge. So it should look like this when you're done. If you open it up, you've got your seam on the wrong side and just a flat seam on the other. Quick grab your iron and press these seams on the wrong side open. I'll be right back. So now this is what it looks like after it's been pressed open. You can see the seams here. Next, take your zipper. Notice it is not an invisible zipper. And if you are putting in a separating zipper, this application would be very similar, but we're just using a regular open zipper. Make sure that the right side of the zipper goes toward the seam. So you've got your piece of fabric here. This is the right side of the zipper. You're going to put it onto your fabric, teeth snug up against the seam line. Now, here's the important part. Many people get this confused. Make sure the underside of your garment or pattern is not included in the seam that you're going to stitch your zipper to. So line up the top of the zipper. Sorry, it's hard to see on the iPad here. Line up the top of the zipper right here with the top of your garment. Teeth up against the seam line, and seam and garment not together. Okay, so then we put it in the sewing machine. And you're going to stitch right up against the teeth, not so close that it won't zip up, but not so far away that you've got a gap. You don't want this kind of a thing. You want it really snug. So here we go. You can use a zipper foot for this. I often don't. I've been putting in zippers for so many years now that I just change feet as little as possible. It saves me time. So make sure your needle is right up next to your teeth. Your teeth are snugly against your seam. You don't want any gapping underneath, because then when you tear it out, your zipper won't lay flat. You're not basting anymore either. You can baste it in first if you want to. I always just stitch first. And back stitch at the bottom. Take it out, clip your threads. This is what you should have now. Sorry, my zipper is too long for my piece of fabric. Theoretically, your zipper would be at the bottom or wherever the end needs to be. So this is what you should have. This is firmly stitched down. It won't come off. Seam is separate from the garment. And the right side of the zipper is against the seam. So you're going to zip up your zipper. It looks like this now. Here's the side that you just stitched. This is the side that hasn't been stitched yet. It's still free open. Again, make sure your garment and your seam are not being stitched together. So from the bottom of your zipper, lay your seam flat. Make sure your zipper is flat and centered against your seam before you stitch it. And then do the same thing. Stitch right up against the teeth. Now, when you get to the top, you will not be able to stitch all the way up around the zipper tab. Get as close as you can, back stitch. Make sure you clip your threads nice and close. And this is what you have. Your zipper is now completely stitched, free from the garment. It's only stitched to the seam at this point. Now, right here, I could not stitch up around the zipper tab. It's still loose right there. Don't worry about it. We'll catch it later. So now, you flip it over, make sure it's open. I forgot to tell you on the back side, make sure you serge your seams, the edge of your seams first. I forgot to do that on this example, but I always do when I sew zippers into garments or projects. Flip it over, make sure it's nice and flat. I'm using a nice cotton canvas today, so it's lying flat on its own. You may need to iron this from this side at this point. Not always, but when in doubt, iron. And iron is a magical tool for sewing. Then you're going to stitch about a presser foot from here. It might be a little more than that. And you're going to top stitch through all layers, so through everything. So it's like this. You're going to top stitch along here. Make sure it is even from here to your stitching all the way along, and don't let it waffle, because then it looks really homemade and it won't be as secure anyway. So we're going to put it in the machine. Again, your zipper tab is going to be in the way. Start as low as you can, as high as you can at the bottom of the zipper tab. Sorry, I'm speaking like I have Tourette's or something. And then begin to stitch. I don't know if you can see here, but sorry, I'm doing this backwards. This is what it looks like on the machine. My foot, I'm sorry, is not up against the seam line because the zipper teeth are in the way. That's okay. It doesn't have to be exactly 1/4 of an inch. So let me get this centered again so you can all see. Okay, are you ready? Now I'm going to pretend like this is a garment that you would need to square off the bottom of your zipper. So I'll show you how to do that here in a second. Stop near the bottom of your zipper with the needle down. I don't know if you can see this. Then you're going to pick up your presser foot, pivot your garment so that it's perpendicular to the seam you just stitched right here. And you're going to stitch across the zipper. Now if you're working with the end of the zipper down here, be very careful not to stitch across this metal tab. It's okay to stitch across the teeth here because the needle will catch in the holes. If you try to stitch across this, you will break a needle. I know this from experience. And then stop with your needle down again, pick up your presser foot, pivot your garment so it's headed the opposite direction. So you're headed north now, or stitching toward yourself. Make sure it is the same distance from the center line on both sides. So this is my stitching line that I just did on the other side. I'm going to put another stitching line on this side now, and I'm going to make sure that it ends up being even. So you don't want it here or here, you want it exactly the same on each side. Alright, only stitch up as far as the tab will let me. You don't want it to U out at the top because you want it to stay straight. So this is what it looks like. This is the top of your garment now. This is the bottom where we squared off the zipper end. Now from this point, we're going to take a seam ripper and we're going to very carefully rip out this basting that we did as our first step. So I'm taking out my stitching. I oftentimes use my little clipper shears for ripping. I know it's kind of strange, but it works for me. So I've done this for years. Now, of course, you want to pull out all your threads. I won't take up all of T's time to do that right now. This is what your zipper should look like now. So you can see the teeth in there, your open seams. Sometimes if you haven't pressed this enough as you go through the steps, this will bubble underneath, or it will overlap on this, or it won't be totally flush when you rip it out. If that is the case, take your zipper out and start over, because it will never lay flat and it'll catch on the fabric and your zipper will get caught. It'll be frustrating. So now we can, sorry, I haven't clipped all these threads. Now we can take our zipper tab right here, pull our zipper down, and it opens beautifully, right? Now we have an open zipper. However, the top of our garment here still doesn't have top stitching. So line up your zipper tape or teeth so it's all the same all the way along as up at the top. If you like to, oops, sorry, my iPad's falling over here. You can pin it. I don't use a lot of pins, but I will for this example. You can pin it and then just put it in your machine, same distance from the seam line as you stitch down below. Top stitch at the back stitch at the top, and top stitch all the way down, seam and garment together. Overlap your existing stitch line just a little bit. Make sure it lines up though, or it won't look nice. Take your pin out, or take it out as you're sewing. And now the top of your zipper looks like this. It's completely top stitched. Your zipper is secure. It won't go anywhere. Do that on the other side. One side will be more secure than the other because it got stitched all the way around the tab, whereas the other side couldn't because we had the zipper zipped up. Clip your threads nice and close. Now it looks like this. And here's the bottom of your zipper. And you can zip it up. Make sure nothing is catching. And there you have a perfectly centered installed zipper. And if you were completing a garment from here, if you were attaching a facing or a lining or something, you'd stitch to the top of your teeth here. So then when you turn your seam over, all you have left is the top of your zipper tape, zipper teeth. There won't be any extra that can't zip like this. You don't want that outside of a seam. You want to catch all of that in a seam. So then you've got a perfectly finished zipper top. So there you go. There you have it, a tutorial on how to install a seamed flap centered zipper. If you have any questions or comments, please put them in the box below. Subscribe, and I will do more sewing technique updates as we go along. And maybe I'll make a tutorial on how to install a well done and simple being the operative word, invisible zipper. They're not nearly as hard as our home ec teachers taught us that they were. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope this was helpful.